Hi guys, Darrel Smith from South Dakota. If you've read some of my stories, you know what I'm trying to do. I think and we feel that we've lived very eventful lives, and I'm trying to document those stories. We had a period where we rode motorcycles. That's been a while back, and I'm going to tell the story about some of the events that we experienced on the motorcycles. I'm going to call this story On Two Wheels. We kind of moved into the motorcycle two-wheel business very slowly. I was a lieutenant in the Marine Corps in Cherry Point, North Carolina. We lived about 2 miles from my base, or where my office was. I passed a service station quite often, and there was a little red Vespa scooter that just sat in the yard there on the lot and had a for sale sign on it. Well, I passed it several days, finally stopped by to look at it, decided that I wanted it. We had no money. I don't know how we ended up buying it. It didn't cost very much though. But what a wonderful little machine that was. It burned almost no gas, and it would putter along from our home to the base in no time, and that would give Glenda the opportunity to use our Volkswagen at will whenever she needed to. Well, that worked out, and we were transferred to Texas eventually after a long time, and that little red scooter went with us. I don't remember what happened to it. When we lived in Minnesota, or moved to Minnesota after I was out of the Marine Corps, again, I had several small bikes. Finally, I saw a bigger bike, a Honda CX 500. It was, again, in somebody's yard or by the road, had a for sale sign, and it didn't sell either. And I finally looked at it and made the decision to buy it. It was a good bike, but it was not a big road bike. It was medium size. So we rode that, and it was a capable highway bike, but not a big cruiser. And we I got a wild idea. I said, let's ride this bike around the United States. And Glenda was willing to go along with me. And one night we had Darrel and Jean Cloud over at our house, and we were talking, and we told them that we were going to leave in a few days to try to ride the bikes around the United States. And he said, when are you leaving? And I said, Thursday. He said, wait till Friday, I'll go with you. So that was the beginning of a long series of trips for the two of us around the United States. Well, Thursday came, and we left in October, I believe it was, in Minnesota. It was a cool, crisp day, perfect for riding, and we rode south. Everything was going along very well. I had that little bike I bought, the CX 500, had an aftermarket shield on it, and some way it wasn't mounted exactly right, and it caused the bike to pull one way or the other. And that was not a problem around town, but to do it for hour after hour on the road, it was painful. By the time I'd get where we were going at night, I would be hurting. So we went all the way, our first ride, went all the way from Minnesota to Pensacola, Florida, where their son, the Cloud's son, lived. They had a small house there, and I don't know how we did it. We slept on the floor and wherever, and we all slept in that little house. It was fun. We had a good time. But while we were there, Darrel, picked up a paper, and he found a Goldwing for sale nearby. So we went to look at that bike, and it was I think it was some sort of celebrity, like a newscaster or something for the TV, owned it, and he lived near the salt water, and the salt water had etched the engine a little bit. That's the only thing we could find wrong with it. We bought it. Did not check it out, didn't take it to a mechanic, just bought it, and in a day or so loaded it up with our stuff and headed west. And it was a good bike, and we had a great time with it. We paid $3,500 for it. We headed west, and eventually we called, named our tour the Perimeter Tour. So we were going to try to ride as close to the border of the United States as we could. So from Pensacola we turned west, and it continued on. We don't know exactly how long, but we left those bikes on the road for 2 years. Some people even say 3 years. And what we'd do is find a storage bin or somebody's backyard, and leave them for weeks sometime until we could get back to them. And on our days off, we would fly to them and move them on to some other place. Of course, we were flying for Northwest Airlines, and we tried to leave them in cities where Northwest Airlines had service, and we could get reduced airfare there, and that made it a lot easier. I remember, I was going to say, we were out, many years, 2 years, 3 years on the road, and we rode 35 or 40,000 miles. We visited most of the states. We missed a few, I think, but we visited most of them. Now I'm going to tell you a few just a short stories that happened along the way that were vaguely interesting. So I'll tell you, these are not in order, so it's just someone that I remembered. We were in New Orleans. It was late in the afternoon, and we had gone from the hotel to downtown to a restaurant. We climbed on our bikes and headed back toward the hotel, and it rained. Not a casual rain. I have never seen such a downpour. We could not ride. It was just too hard, and I pulled slowly off the road, or just off the road, and put my feet down, and the water was up over my ankles, and we couldn't do anything. We just had to sit there and take it. So it was quite a downpour. On another occasion, we had split up some way, and we did that not often, but once in a while we'd have different goals, and we joined back up later. Well, we had split up, and we were going to meet in Mobile, Alabama, and Glenda and I were nearby or in place, I don't know, but the Clouds had to ride from wherever they were to meet us there. Well, it was cold, real cold for that particular part of the country, and they arrived, and they had all the clothes they owned at that time, and they were just about frozen. It took them hours to get back to normal. We never did make room reservations anywhere, and one time we got caught late at night. We'd taken a long ride over West Texas, and we ended up in Sanderson, Texas, and it's a town of about 834 population is what I have written here, and we couldn't find a place to sleep, and it was late. We finally found this rundown. It was homely. It was awful place. The rooms, the furniture was scruffy and probably dirty, and the room had junk in it other than what you would need for a hotel room. My room had a kind of a concrete small enclosure that looked like it might have been a shower at one time, but it had a overstuffed chair in there. In our room, they had a wood burning stove and a stovepipe that went right through the ceiling, and so you can see it was a pretty awful place, but we got a lot of laughs out of it. It was pretty much fun. The California desert one day was a real challenge. We were in Death Valley, and the sun was shining, but the wind was blowing, and we were headed toward Las Vegas, and the wind was from our right front, and it was blowing, and it was hot, and I would lean as far forward as I could. The bikes were leaning over because the wind was blowing from the side, and so to counter that, the bikes I would put in a lean. I would use the throttle with my right hand, even though I had a full face mask on. That sand was blowing in there, so I was holding like this, and we did that for what seemed like hours. It probably wasn't that long, but that hot desert sand blowing on us was the most miserable day that I remember. Just to show you how it was, and our luck did not get any better. We got to Las Vegas. If there was some special event there were no rooms in town, and we finally on the outskirts found another little motel, but it was better than the one in Sanderson, Texas. So we did find that, and we got a night's sleep. And I got up the next morning, and there had been a crack under the front door, quarter inch or so, and there was a sand dune inside our room. It was about 4 inches high and about 2.5 feet long, where the wind had whipped that sand through that crack and formed a sand dune in our hotel. I'll look at my notes here and see what we were in Tucson, Arizona. We were in Tucson, Arizona, and I don't know how it happened. We always, when we got to the room, we were usually hot and kind of dirty, and we would pretty quick usually maybe have a beer or a glass of wine to clear the road dust out of your throat. And I don't know how it happened, but one night in Tucson, the girls decided that they were going to dye our hair. We both were getting to the age where we had white showing on the side, and they decided they would fix that. So they did that, and it was a lot of laughs, and so much so that Jean Cloud wet her pants laughing so hard. So we were going up Highway 1 in California to the north, and we stopped to look at the view, and I was looking out across the ocean, and for the first time in my life, I saw the spout or exhaust of a whale in the air, a blow, I guess they blow. And I stood there for 20 minutes looking for another, but I never saw it again. But that's the first time I had ever seen that. During the trip and the bikes on the road, our bike was down south, Southern California somewhere, and I found out that I had been awarded a position as captain on the 757. And also I found out that because there wasn't enough facilities at that time at Northwest, we were going to be trained in the Boeing facilities in Seattle. So we needed to get that bike up up to Seattle. So we did that done. One other time in the New York in the Adirondack Mountains, it was a nice night, and it was part of us sitting outside, and there was a strange thing, and I'm not sure what it was. Yeah, a rocket. I'm sure it was a rocket. Uh, we found out later from Vandenberg Air Force Base in California, they had launched some sort of rocket, and when it went through the atmosphere, it looked like it was directly above us, and that was all the way across the country, but that's what it was. But it made I can't describe it, some sort of, I don't know, like a cloud or it was a spiral type thing. It was a strange looking thing. And I wanted Glenda to see it, so I jumped up out of my chair. I was outside and she was inside, and ran over and pounded on the door. I said, get out here, and look at this. Well, I pounded on the wrong door, so everybody got a good laugh out of that. We were getting toward the end of our riding experience. We were in Texarkana, Arkansas for the night. And again, like in New Orleans, it rained. Not a casual rain. It rained hard all day long. So we sat with the motel room with our front door open, looking at it raining for a full day. We had nothing to do, just boredom. And the next day, it seemed to me like it was getting lighter. The clouds were, and the rain had let up a little bit. And I said, Glenda, let's go for it. And she said, okay. Well, we rode and it did not stop raining. It rained just as hard. And no matter how you tried, water would get inside your clothes. And it was cold. Glenda, I finally rode across the bridge at Memphis and got to the parking lot where we had left our car, and she was happy to get off that motorcycle and in her car, and I had to drive it another 10 miles or so home. When I got home, I was so cold. I'd never been this cold before. Ran a tub of hot water and stripped off all my clothes, and I think what I thought recovery would be almost instantaneous, but it was not. It took me a long time to quit shaking. So there you have it, a little bit of what we did on the bike. We rode about 35,000 miles, I think I said that already, and visited most of the states. And after that wasn't the last ride, that cold ride where I came home from Texarkana. Mike sat in the garage for a while, and I put it up for sale, and it was sold. And I bought it for $3,500, sold it for $2,500, but they've held their value. Today, a nice bike that year would be about $3,500 or $3,500. So that's a story about our riding. We had some great times, and I just dream about it sometimes, going out and riding again, but I'm 86 years old and I'm not going to do it. That's my story for today. Thank you.